In this video, we are talking to one of the most active traders that I know in the NFT space, Jesse Halfin, and he is revealing his top tips and how you can learn from his mistakes. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice. We are not financial advisors. The NFT space is incredibly risky, so always do your own research. Jesse, truly a pleasure to have you on the YouTube show. You're on the Twitter show every single day, but I appreciate you coming on here to share your insights. Why don't you give people a little understanding of who you are and you know, how long you've been in the NFT space?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pio. Glad you accepted me here even after my Twitter appearances. Get the bleeper button ready. So I came in here. You know, we all have our own story, and I think they're somewhat similar. Literally took a severance package at a big law firm. It was kind of like what I thought was nearing the end of COVID. So it seemed like a good time to exit. Literally, you know, I've got I got like 6 weeks of pay to mess with before I look for a new job, and stumbled into Clubhouse. And at that time, you know, this is NFTs, Farouk, Bored Apes, the whole thing.
The right time to stumble into Clubhouse for sure.
Yeah.
Early
So, and
2021.
I thought I was coming into it so I was like, this is great. I'll have a niche, right? I'll be the NFT lawyer. You know, Jacob Martin kind of branded himself that, but a couple of us were kind of early in on that.
Yeah.
I was in automotive at the time, but I have an IP background, and so I'm like, I'll be the NFT lawyer. I started a newsletter. I'm doing this. Meanwhile, like, you know how it is. Like, everybody was talking about copyright violation and this and securities, but like, no one was really following the law. And the community wasn't enforcing it. And then, of course, we have this whole open source movement where it's like you're almost more shamed for enforcing your IP as opposed to not. So I'm like, I'm building a small practice, but then I see people like Jacob selling Bored Apes and like
selling bank.
Yeah, Justin Everson. I'm like, I'm definitely doing this wrong. So I started coming in. So my background is I'm not a financial trader. I have no financial background. Both my parents were kind of hippies.
You never traded stocks?
Nothing, no stocks, no nothing. I have pretty good common sense. You know, I have pretty good. I'm kind of a contrarian thinker. You know, it's kind of a lawyer cliche, but I really do have that, and that's kind of what I brought to this. I like to think I've had a pretty good eye for picking out. I always joke about the cool kids and the cool projects, and just pick ones that look cool, and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a running gig, but like just to give you kind of a background on how of course, I've had some lessons learned from the ups and downs, which I'll get to here, but I have no specific background. Everything I'm going to give you here is based on my time in the past 12 months, basically.
Right, but you've put in a lot of time. So like when
too much
time. Yeah. So when you and I first started when you started coming on the Twitter spaces at the end of last summer, that was when we kind of met. And then from there, I had you on the show I was doing at that time, but we talked about law stuff. Little did I know it would have been way better to just talk about, the trading. So you're an incredibly active trader. The first project you bought into, you said, was Loot, right?
Not the first one, but that was my Bored Apes. I started out with a small bag, right? Had to convince my wife that I could even take out $3,000, right, to put into this, insanity, and started buying things like, what was big at the time, skulls, wicked craniums, I had a few minor trades. And, I'm not going to go into the full Loot story because it's madness. I was saving up a bag for Atom Bomb Squad that same day.
Yeah. I didn't know Loot came out the same day as Atom
Bomb Squad. First of all, no one knew Loot. Loot was nothing. There was no Loot. Like, Loot, he literally just dropped it and was like, I haven't even vetted the contract. I think this is a cool idea. That was it. Loot was like nothing. Like, there was people knew Dom from Blitmap, but it was not on anybody's radar. But I won't give you the whole story, but I missed out on Atom Bomb Squad because I wanted to get better gas. Like, I was about to click, missed out. And then, of course, I'm like, going into depression. And then I see one of the people I follow check out Loot. It was my first time minting from contract. You can only mint, this was like a stealth drop. So I knew how to do it. I had done it once before, or my second time. And you had to input, a certain number. And if a number was taken, you had to do something else. So you could anyway, I just clicked sign so many times. I ended up getting like 15 Loot, and the rest is history. Then
what was the mint price on Loot?
There's no Loot. It was just free.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be it was words on a page. It was white words on a black page. No one knew what this was. It was before like Sheets. This is how people started coming up with the idea for Sheets. But this was the dumbest, even when people were selling this for 60 ETH, people were saying this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's just words on a page.
Yeah,
So
and Vitalik Buterin ended up tweeting about this. So I minted Atom Bomb Squad. It's funny that you got loot, you missed Atom Bomb Squad. I got Atom Bomb Squad, which turned out to be good, but it didn't turn out to be good for me.
I know,
because
you're still hard. You still have scars. I know.
Well,
it's hard for you to talk about Atom Bomb Squad success even now. I know.
Well, there was turbulence. Basically, I've now learned a lot from that project and others, and we can kind of go into that. But loot, what was the top for loot? Like really high floor, right?
Like 15 overnight one night, I think.
Oh my God.
Which is and there's the divine robes were I sold one for 25 ETH. They went to like 100. Some of those are still selling. I don't know. They're like, within that whole weird ecosystem.
So did you make over 40 ETH off of loot?
Yeah, I made basically my whole bet. Like I don't even it's possible I have made nothing since then. I wouldn't even know because you know what I mean? I've taken out money. I take out money. I finally, which we can kind of talk about in terms of keeping this as like a normal, mentally healthy process. Like I'm taking out money like every 2 weeks, like a paycheck, both for so that my wife, because I can show her even Coinbase. If I show her the
money's
NFTs,
coming out.
Yeah, if I show her the NFTs, we're gonna have a long talk. No, she knows about it. I'm joking. But if even Coinbase, it's like, she's like, okay, I see it there, but like, how do I pay bills? So I'm like, every 2 weeks from now on, which is good because then if I start seeing, wait a minute, I'm taking out whatever a salary is, 5,000 a week from NFTs. If that starts dwindling, then I realize, okay, this is not sustainable, right? So I think that's, kind of like one of the things that, we can go into.
Well, for it to be sustainable, you have to be incredibly good if you're trying to literally make it like a paycheck like that, like a full-time job. I personally, I'm more of like an investor, right? Because it's just, you have to be glued to the damn computer to be able to do it right. And people talk about this for traditional trading too, in equities and in the legacy finance world. If you talk to somebody that works as a trader, they'll tell you from 7 a.m. until the market closed, you are glued to your desk. You're prepping from 7 a.m. until the market opens. Then you're just glued to your desk for the entirety of the whole day, and then you can finally start to unwind once the market closes. But, I wanted to talk about what you're doing right now because it's such a weird time in the market with all this, the world stuff going on, the literal war that might be happening right now over in Ukraine. But you had mentioned a couple of projects that you were buying, and we're seeing NFTs dip, we're seeing Ethereum dip, so we're seeing just an overall market dip, which is good if you have liquidity, which is good if you have high conviction items or assets, I should say, that you've had your eye on. I know you mentioned Smilesssvrs. How are you operating right now?
So I'll go in reverse a little bit. I'll go a little bit into right now. Right now, I think, well, first of all, right now I'm sitting and doing almost nothing, right? Yeah. We don't have to be world politicians to know this. If it gets really bad, we're all going to get wrecked anyway. It really does. If it's like really, really bad.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, again, without being politicians, we've seen stuff with Putin before where it's like one day it looks like war, and then in 2 weeks, it's kind of like, okay, someone calls this bluff or whatever. Other people are like, this really could be, now China's involved. It could really get ugly. We don't know. But I'm going to kind of treat the lessons I've got. So for right now, what I'm doing is turning mid chips and lower chips, if I can, into blue chips. If they're sustaining value. If they're just plummeting, I'll just kind of wait and hope they pop back. But personally, if I had something like MFers, which is holding, but it's kind of like a meme, to me, that's like a little bit scary. I don't want to rely on a meme, a happy meme in the middle of war. Like really, I've been through Toads, and Toads went up, and it was like memes are the king. Like you can't bring a meme, and like even
when times are good, maybe
right. And also before the next meme comes out, or before the guy moves on. So I would turn things like that, warp, if you like, maybe, I don't know what it is, nuclear nerd, something that's like maybe Huxley. If you made a bag on Huxley, that's almost like a blue chip that I would roll into. I'm turning those ones that are, if they're holding right now, a cool pet or something, I want to turn that into whatever I like. If you like subducts, you like sneaky vampires, you have to make those decisions. But I would roll those like shaky flippy type plays right now into ones I like. I like Smilesssvrs and Deadfellas. You might like Sneaky Vampires and Warp Sound, or you might think is the next big thing, or Nuclear Nerds, whatever you think. That's what I would put my stuff into, because you just feel better about it, right? Like so much of this is like, and I think we'll get into this, is managing your own sort of mentality around this whole thing, right? What are you good at, and how much time can you put into it, and how can you manage because it's the entire market is not really rational. So trying to be totally rational in it is a real challenge. And the mistakes that you typically make, that I make, obviously FOMO is when you're scared, right? If you're overextended, that's when you start to really kind of realize what's happening. But the fear and FOMO and the you make a big bag and you're like, oh, I can make another one. I always mess up when I do that. You miss out on a mint at 5X's and you want to make it up on the next one. Like that's where you need to
you get wrecked.
Go for a walk. Yeah. And it's just kind of like anything else. No, really, like, because every time because of the FOMO, you're always worried that you're going to miss out on loot or the next like stealth mint or the next whatever it is, like little easy flip. And you just have to realize, especially in this space, and I'm talking about like pre-war, the antebellum NFT period. Let's just assume that it's like at least steady, like it might be a bit. Let's just assume it doesn't tank 90%. That there's 10 new projects you can always get back. Like. And not only can you always get back, like all those projects that go up, like they go in waves. And so you just have to often, just like in law and your business, like often the best moments come when you're in the shower or whatever. And like you actually need to step away and figure out a way to kind of like manage your, what you're good at. So for me, and I talked about this, I think one of the biggest lessons is know what you're good at and pretty much stick with that. For me, it's like turning like mints or like really quick post mints, if they haven't boomed, into 2 and 3X's. If I can go from a 0.8 by 5 and selling it to 0.22 or 1 at 0.2, 1 at 0.25, 1 at 0.28, like I scale, and then they go, maybe I save one to see if it goes to 1 ETH and maybe I don't. And I'm like, okay, I just made $2,000 on a stupid JPEG and I'll go into the next one. I'm good at finding, steering away from the dumb projects, finding those kind of cool, sometimes a little bit under the radar, Cryptoon goons. Maybe it's like a hipster thing that I see from like a friends with benefits kind of like person that I follow. Someone that I follow that's a little bit under the radar, take that, flip it into the mainstream audience, and then move on to the next one. That's what I'm good at. DeFi games, land, coins, like you have to counter trade me. I can't get them right no matter what. But some other people are good at that. So to me, it's like some people are good at just deep research, right? Signal found Huxley. She knew Huxley before, like practically before they even like it feels like she knew about it before they did almost. And some people do this deep research and they know, and that's it. And I think those people emotionally don't. Again, it's like your emotional. It's like aren't as good at flipping. Like you're forcing yourself to do something. So and some other people are good at finding rares, right? Sniping rares maybe, or following a specific wallet. Me neither. I'm a floor guy. And every time I've tried to do that, I've gotten burned, even when I'm like using the tools. I can't do that. So to me, it's like figure out what you're good at. And then for those other things, because you do want to diversify, copy trade the people you trust. So when Captain Kicks basically says, I have a land play, just like I have to, just buy World Wide Web land or what was it? Not Blue, Well, and if Wappy says like get into it right now, sell wolves in the wolf game, just like I'll follow that person. But if I try to do it, I can't do it. And kind of, so know your kind of lane, and then know your kind of, what is your flaws in trading, and try to like identify those. Do you always hold too long, right? Then start to maybe scale, that kind of thing.
I mean, you're definitely right. And like when you were talking about having an emotional reaction or taking action after you've like gotten wrecked or you've missed something, I couldn't agree more. I have an example of this from January. So about a month ago, probably like a month and a week or two, it was early to mid-January. It was around the time that Alien Friends went to 2 ETH from 0.04. In-Betweeners went to 2 ETH. I think Thingdoms had come out right around that time. All these projects that were like little cartoony characters were minting for like under 0.1, sometimes literally 0.04, and they were all going to 2 ETH. And people in our Discord had like 15 of them. So they had turned like, 0.4 ETH into like 15 ETH or something like that, or more, like 30 ETH. And me and Captain Kicks were pissed off because we were working on, the Nifty He was working on Crypto Raiders, and we didn't do it. And then this project called Lil Brains came out. So Captain Kicks minted like 30, I minted 10, and we were like, this one's...
I minted based just solely on your tweet. You
Yeah.
owe me drinks one day for those.
Well, but they did 2 or 3x, but I wanted it to go to 2 ETH like everything else, and then it just went back to like mint price, you know? So if I like a 2 or 3x wasn't good enough for me there to not sell any. I sold like 0 on the way up, you know? Because it's like, well, these are going to go to 2 ETH. I'll sell them at 2 ETH, but then they didn't happen. So you can't have a reaction to what just happened, and no one knows what's going to happen in the market next. So you have to have your plan and stick to it. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think we've all been through, but one thing you have to realize, we've all been through all of these things. Like we're acting in very quick time, right? So you see a project, when I see a project going on Icy Tools, I'll just pick one so that we can kind of go through the process.
Sure.
We all make the case in our head in like 90 seconds. Ooh, I like that. Oh, I like the art. Oh, that looks kind of weird. Oh, it already pumped to 1.3. Should I still go? And you make the case in the bear head, the bull case. Oh, I should get like 3, or you're like, stay away. It'll come back down. And of course, if it moons, you regret it. But like these are very close calls, and they're operating in real time. And so, one of the best things you can do is like basically Google sunk cost fallacy, right? Google endowment effect, Google all these things that are like, our brains it's really hard to do this, right? And so something like sunk cost fallacy, when you're thinking about something, I think when something's at like 0.25 and we've seen it go to 0.4 and now it's at like 0.2, we're like, oh, I don't want to sell for a loss. Like, let me wait. It'll go back up to 0.29, and then I'll at least, even with the 7.5%, I'll make it back. And it's like, no. That money is gone. Like, do you want this 0.2, or do you want this
literally 0?
No, yeah. Or do you want this 0.2? If you had right now, would you buy this dastardly duck that you have, or would you rather have it in something else? And that's the only question. Don't worry about what you paid for it. It's so, I mean, these are problems that are almost unsolvable, right? Like sunk cost fallacy. Like, we see these things every day, right? So it's not, don't beat yourself up over it, but it's kind of, especially one of the things that's good to do is if you can track it yourself in any way, say, oh, I like this project, I'm gonna give it an 8, and then you decide not to buy it, and you're like, oh, I was wrong about that one. Or if you just go through your list history and look at stuff that you sold that is like, it's gone, it's like 0 now, you're like, oh, like,
that
remember
was a good
that
idea to sell.
Yeah, remember that the next time you're like, oh, I sold too early, I sold at 0.5, I got a 5x and it went to 2, and you're like, I can't believe I sold to it. It's like, you can't really play that game. But I mean, just to go through, for example, like, I'm still going to treat this. I think things in a year and 5 years could be very different, but we're still in a place, because now even the minting's gotten tough with whitelists, right? Everything is like secondaries. You don't know when to get in. But something that's minted in the last few days, Cyberfrogs, and is pumping a little bit, like at this moment, right? It's like up on Icy Tools. This is one, I look at it. Again, none of us have any research. No one ever heard of Cyberfrogs until a couple of days ago. It slowly minted out, has 5,500, about 2,500, owners. I look at the art. I don't like it. I look at their page. They said, we have no roadmap, but we don't have one because we think that gets expectations up. And we feel like the best thing to do is to get our community involved. So I look at that. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that, right? And then I might go to their Discord, and that's really it, right? At that point, I'm like, okay, do I get 1? Do I get 3? Do I get 5? These were 0.1 min. Right now, let's say they're like 0.12. I'll get 3. I immediately list 1 at 2x, 0.24. If I'm not so certain, maybe I list them all at 0.24, or maybe I do 1 at 0.24, 1 at 0.369, 1 at, sure. See if it moves. That way, if you walk away, one of the best things to do is to walk away, and you come back and you sold something, you're like, oh, and it's already back down. Like, it hit a pump. This happens overnight. Yeah. Right. So list things at a price that you would be comfortable with. For me, I don't think Cyberfrog is going to 2 ETH. Right. So for me, this would be a quick flip. Right. Okay. It was at 0.1. I'll get 3. Maybe I'll get 5. And then this is the other thing. It's okay to change your mind. Sometimes I'll buy something. I'll buy 5 Cyberfrogs. And then somebody in the Discord will be like, oh, Cyberfrogs, like one of their devs, this happened with one of these goons projects, this cartoon goons. Oh, one of the guys was involved with a shady project. I'll cut ties immediately. Like 0.09, all 5 0.09 or 0.11. Who cares? Like, if you change your mind, like, it's like, okay, that I'm going to lose, maybe sometimes you even profit, but maybe I'll lose like 0.1 ETH on all 5. And it's like, now I don't have to think about it. I'm not going to be refreshing, should I drop it from 0.22 to 0.18? Like that stuff can drive you crazy. So it's okay to train, also to cut ties and like just wait for the next one. Like I said, that happened with what was the project? Not Cryptune, Degen Tunes.
Yeah, that was a recent one.
It recently came out. I was about to buy it. I'm like, I kind of like the art. And then someone said one of the devs was from what was that one that had a quasi-racist like
Jungle
theme to
Freaks?
it. Jungle Freaks. So it's like a dev from Jungle Freaks. Of course, I can't verify this, but I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to get burned. And like, to me, it's not like an automatic sell. It went up to, I think, 0.3, almost 0.4 yesterday. And I didn't feel really any regret. Like, I was like, I remember that time. Obviously, I wish I would have bought two. Sometimes you buy one or two just so that you don't totally FOMO. Like buying one is always like some emotional hedge. I didn't even do that, which I wish I would have, but it doesn't bother me. Like that's one where it's like, you have to make this stuff on very, very limited information. And maybe and the Jungle Freaks thing could have even been wrong, right? But none of us are going to be able to. I'm not a do your own research guy. So I'm a quick flip, quick decision guy. And so for me, just to give you like in real time, like Cyberfrogs, I would have bought, if it wasn't in the middle of potential war, if this was like 2 months ago, no, really, I would have bought like, right now I'm really just doing nothing. Probably 3 or 4 Cyberfrogs at like 0.12 and immediately listed them for about 2x thinking, I think this, I don't love the art, but a couple of them look cool. If it works, it works. If not, I'll probably be able to sell them for 0.16 and walk away, 0.14. And with the cut, I'm about even, no problem. So that's the way I view kind of the mint and flips right now. And then if it's, if it's like a project that I've identified in advance. So those are the quick flips. I did this with Eyes of Fashion too. It was literally live on the Nifty show.
I would have bought Eyes of Fashion if I had been in front of the computer when
right, you were hosting. Minting. Yeah. What literally happened was people in the Discord were like, Eyes of Fashion. I went to the site. I'm like, ooh, it's kind of cool. I like these eyes on the dress. Looked at the webpage. It was a real human.
Yeah.
To the page. I was
that's enough right there.
You could Google. And I was like, but this is what people have to realize. Like, this is all we're going off of. If you trust your gut, if you don't like this game, then you don't have to be a day trader, right? There's other things you can do. You can be a, you can a long-term investor. Yeah,
exactly.
You could be a carpenter. Like if this is not for you, no, if you force yourself into a lane, like when I try to do this with coins or whatever, it just always ends bad. It's clearly there's just, we all have the different strengths, different weaknesses. I have the gene for this. And so I do it. So basically I bought 3 of these in the middle of our show. I'm like, I like this. Then they started minting fast. Got 5 more. And it went
to what, 0.2 or something? 0.3?
Something like that. I think it was a 0.08 mint. Then I got 5 more and it didn't go through. So I had 8 instead of 13. And at first it's slowly going. I'm like, thank God I didn't get those other 5. Then it pumps up. I'm like, oh shit, I wish I would have got those other 5. But like, you know what I mean? This is all one trade with no information. And I ended up doing fine. I think I got 8. I sold most of them for like 0.25, held on to a couple, and I still have them. I'll probably just sell them at cost now. But that's how it goes for the quick mints. For the ones where I identify in advance, I would call this Cryptune Goons from a while ago, which I minted at about 50%. Alpha Elementary over this weekend was one I kind of had my eye on. I didn't put it out as alpha because I'm like, I don't know much. I would call Howlers. I would put Howlers in this, although Howlers might now be everybody's in on it. But for a while, Howlers wasn't really known.
Yeah, it was a little under the radar. Yeah,
I would put that in the category of I'm already a pre-believer, and so now I'm definitely gonna. I'm basically gonna mint. I'm definitely gonna mint. So it's just a matter of how much liquidity I have. Am I going 4? Am I going 10? If you're Captain Kicks, you might buy 30, like literally.
The thing is if it's a win, then you always should have bought more. And if it's a loss, you always should have bought less. That's the problem. Like,
yeah, but even going into it with the quick flips, I'm always selling quicker. I'm like, I'll just take it. If Eyes of Fashion goes to 5 ETH, like, what am I supposed to do? Yeah, but most of the time it's not. And so, but for these other plays, for like a Howlers, I might not do the.
Right, you're not going to list it right away.
Right, yeah, or I might list one. I always, it's always nice to be, if say it's a 0.1 and I sell 2 at 0.2, say I buy 10. I sell 2 at 0.25. I've already made half my money. Now I can really think, Okay. Do I think this has like a cool man's potential? Because if it does now, okay, maybe I'll list a couple at 0.6, maybe overnight.
Try to catch that pump. Yeah.
Right. Catch a pump that you might miss. And again, that also gives you liberty to step away. If you're always looking to try to catch the top, like it's an insane game. Like you can't just sit by your computer.
And it's so much easier to sell into the pump. So like an example of a project that kind of encapsulates all the stuff you're talking about is Duskbreakers for me, where you have a Emmy award-winning docs team behind it. I think it's the co-founder of Twitch. That's one of the founders of this too. So from a team perspective, that's about as good of a narrative as you'll get for the most part, aside from like if, I don't know, like a mainstream artist like Jeff Koons or something decided I'm going to make an NFT project and partner with someone from the NFT space, right? So the narrative on Duskbreakers was very strong. I think everybody on our show bought it between 0.1 and 0.17, if I recall correctly, like basically under 0.2. And then it saw a run up to 0.5. Then it came back down to 0.3, hung out there. It had some ups and downs, and now it trades at under 0.2, but it's like a good long-term project. When I look at these numbers here, I have concern over the unique ownership, but other than that, it's pretty solid. But, Easy Eats, I remember, listed his stuff up at 0.5 that first day, and I'm busy holding it because it's a quality project. He got the sales on the way up, and I was holding it, and I ended up getting some sales at 0.3, so it was like a good legit 2x, but it's still not as good as, it's just not as good as selling into that pump. And to do that, you kind of have to be proactive like you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I think and then the other thing is, like I said, you can always buy back, right? Like I bought Deadfellas at 0.6 and I was like, I need to sweep at 0.6, right? Literally everybody, like there's no bear case. Literally everybody was like, this is a 1 ETH project at the time. I remember seeing tweet after tweet after tweet. It's insane that Deadfellas. Then I bought one, I sold it at 1.3. I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm going to get a couple more at 0.8. Well, of course, it does another one. I know you know this story from Deadfellas. It went to 1.8. And at that point, almost always, I just never buy. And then I was like, oh, this is not a pump. This is like everybody's having the moment.
Yeah.
Everybody's realizing this is like one of the
whole
projects.
Time.
It's been here the whole time, but just like Doodles was. Doodles was there.
Smiles
at 3. Too. Doodles was there at 3, and Nick would come on the show for a week and say, I think the real floor of Doodles is 6. He said this like 5 times. It's like, well, then buy 20 of them. And it's like, no, but you know what I mean? We have these projects where we all know, but we're like, everybody's obsessed. Yeah, well, not only sheepish, you want what's hot now, and you're like, I'll get to it. And you're like, I'll get to it. You keep saying, I'll get to it. And then all of a sudden, World of Women goes from 3 to 9, literally in like 6 hours. And it's like, you know what I mean? You can't, if it's a project you really believe in. So then I bought 2 at 1.8 and I ended up selling them both at 4. But it goes to kind of that same thing when it comes to these like market swings. And I think that's something where people really have a chance to either make profit now in this weird market or just in general, right? So a lot of the liquidity just moves. A lot of the people that have made money in this in the NFTs that are in NFTs, it's not a lot of money coming in and out. It's really swinging back and forth, right? From this blue chip to that blue chip, right? There's a lot of money in Doodles, then it's something else. There's a lot of money in Toads. That Toads money is still, I think, mostly in NFTs. When it was 10 ETH, people have put it into something else. And so projects just are not constantly, it's like not like a normal business where you're selling units. Okay, I sell cars. I sell them the same amount of cars every week, right? It's like, no, you go and you disappear for a while, but you might be sending tweets, right? But like Subdux goes up and Subdux goes between 1 and 2 because it falls off the radar, something else comes on the radar. And so when things fall off the radar, if you see the Discord is still doing well, Huxley maybe is the most classic case of this, right? Huxley was there at 10, issue 2 was there. It was
at 0.1 for a million years.
Well, it was like issue 2. But also issue 2 just wasn't minting. It was like 9,000, then 8,000.
What is up with that with Huxley? It doesn't mint forever, and then everybody wants it.
But like everybody knew, but like it just wasn't on people's radar, right? Other stuff was on people's radar, and because people always want to follow these quick flips, your eyes go to the shiny new object. Meanwhile, another project is building, but I don't even mean like you've done deep research, like you know the project, right? Whether you think it's World of Women, Subducks, I don't even mean like deep research. When they're just like in between announcements, like Dead Fellas is going to be in between an announcement right now. They just did Dead Friends, right? Yep. We know that Betty's probably has 11 things lined up, but there's going to be some time in May where no one's talking about Dead Fellas, and it's just going to drop, right? You would never
maybe
sell
under 2 ETH,
right? And you would never sell, Apple stock because they were I mean like a real company. Right. You would never sell Tesla. LeBron James stock because it was like he was like off. It's the off season. It's like, yeah, it's the off season. Like it doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever it is. Yeah. Tesla, like just because it's not, it's just like, you should just follow what the good projects are. But because the money literally moves like liquid, because it's again, this is not a rational market right now. This might all be different old information in a year. This trading information I'm giving right now, or 5 years might be totally different. It might be totally like almost like stocks. But right now, when you're dealing with emotion, with FOMO, it's literally going back and forth. And we've seen it so many times. I think I've bought and sold Nuclear Nerds like 4 times at a profit. It just goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up. And if it's a real project like Nuclear Nerds, but it's just in between announcements, meanwhile, Doodles is doing something and it goes down to
comfortably buy it.
Yeah, people are literally just looking the other way. It's almost like looking the other way. And that's a way to be pretty safe, make a gamble, but you're still being pretty safe. And I think that's something people can do just by if you have a longer time frame.
What do you think of this one? Look Labs 420 game. This is a Whoppy special right here.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about this one. Is it? I don't do the game stuff too much unless Jonah recommends it.
It's basically identical to Wolf Game, and it's also probably also by Beanie, which is why I was so comfortable buying in. I bought in at under a quarter ETH. I bought, I think, 3 of them total across a couple of wallets. I think the top was just over a half ETH. People are waiting. I feel like it's probably going to be good. I don't know. But then again, it all depends on the macro like market conditions.
Yeah, I think for the purpose of this discussion, yeah, obviously the macro is going to govern. But let's just assume it's at least, like I said, within a margin of error, like plus 20. ETH is somewhere between 22 and 32. Let's just say, or 2,000 and 3,000. So it's like it might go to 2,000, but it's not going to 1,200. Let's just assume a sort of regular bear market.
Sure.
This is the kind of thing you want to bet on if you're a believer. Warp Sound. Some people are huge believers in Warp Sound. They're like, this is going to be the number one music. I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer. I think it's way too early. I think being too early is worse than being too late. And I just don't think the monetization for music. I also don't think it looks. I like it has like a couple different images. I love the music. I bought immediately because I'm like, the samples are really good. But I think they're banking on it. I think this is a Cosmo. He's like, this is the Bored Apes of music. I'm not a believer, but this is what you want to get right now. If you are a Warp Sound at 0.3, Looks, Wanderers. If you're still a believer, like that's one that's just like, if you're a believer, go for it. Like we all have I can make a case for a lot of these, but the point is, right now would be the time when people aren't paying attention to throw some lowball offers at Warp Sound or buy a couple floors. At those like middling projects that it's definitely a real team. BFF bracelets, maybe if you're a believer, right? In a in a bear market, right? They just they announced, I think, some utility about a week ago, but they're already at like 0.5. Like that would be the play where it's like, okay, I know it's a real team. They're going to be around in 3 months, and I'll just wait and hopefully sell into the next project.
Yeah, and so I want to ask you a question. This is almost, it's back up to 9. Oh my God. All right. So look, all right. Check it out. So
that was a bag holder reaction right there. I don't know. I was like, I'm numb to this. It's meaningless.
So I got this. I was fortunate enough to get on the whitelist for this. Shout out to the folks that helped me out with that. Thank you so much. So there's a couple things. I already said I was going to hold this. Okay. And when I say I do something, I want to do it. I said that to multiple people before Russia literally invaded Ukraine, like before it was official. Like I know that it's been in the back of all of our minds all week, but I wasn't walking around every day thinking Russia's invading Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Then last night was the night that maybe you could say shit hit the fan. Would that be fair? Like all of a sudden everyone's like, holy shit, this is happening. So now I'm like, well, That's a lot of ETH, because think about it. The mint price on this was 0.25. And I want people in the audience to weigh in too. Don't spam me, but definitely like if you have an opinion on this too. So 9.15 Ethereum. How much is that? That's probably like 25,000 US dollars. Right. So if, okay, it's not, it looks like it's not actually, okay, yeah. So 9.1, let's just see real quick. Yeah, it's 22,000 because ETH's taking a dump, right? So if I buy this right now, I can take 22,000, or if I sell it, I can take 22,000, I can put it into a Gemini account, and right off the bat, I'm making almost $200 in interest every single month with the 8%, right? So it's like, but check it out. What about in 1 year? Like this guy, Motion Marcus, this isn't Mechaverse. This isn't a bullshit project. This is like a real legit guy. And he already has displayed that he does like networking stuff. He's demonstrated the networking thing. So what if he starts onboarding big names that have hype that's almost as big as his or as big as his, and owning this and owning mood rollers and owning slim hoods gets you on the whitelist for that stuff. I'll be in a rare opportunity to just build this bag, because keep in mind, I'm a long-term person. Like I really am. What, like, I don't know. I know you would sell it. I know that, Jesse.
8.9 right now. I'll take it. I would have, I mean, I'd sell it so fast, but I mean, mostly because, not just because of that. I would, for me, I mean, so what I guess your upside is, I would just be a little bit too, the hype just hit. Let's keep the Ukraine thing aside. The hype just hit. If I had two, obviously I'd sell the easy, the easy answer.
Well, yeah. Is no one's got two. It was a single
one. I would sell because I would think, okay, this has Doodle's potential, but even Doodle's potential, my upside is probably somewhere between like 14 and 16 in a year. Like, I don't know, unless you want to hold it. If you think in 5 years NFTs are all, these are going to be worth 100, that's one thing. But I'm just talking about you still want to make money, even if you're long term. I'm thinking maybe in 12 months, I can sell this for 16, 18. Obviously, if you're holding out, you could get a rare. On the other hand, your downside is this is like the peak hype, right? They had the great, it's actually worked out great. The whitelist, people got a little bit aggravated, but worked out. And then they had this great first sale, right? This 46969. You could argue it could not be any higher. It's really a 6 ETH project. And I have some concern, and I think this was mentioned on the show today, where we've seen the first 10 look amazing, but making 10,000 that are all really cool.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting, I think, scaling problem. And it's a lot harder than people think. And so like Croaks, I think the first three were like, they looked amazing. And then, they start to run out of ideas or they just don't look that great. And I have a little bit of concern of that here. I personally would probably, I would definitely sell it. Wouldn't even be a question. I would sell at 9. I would sell at 9, and then I would probably hedge that with like 4. I really like slim hoods, 4 of those or something at like 0.8, and the rest I would, I'd meant like some ridiculous project.
If I sell it, I'm cashing out, which I never do. Because like you're talking about how you're like basically giving yourself a paycheck, which I think is fantastic. Right. I don't even know if I've ever converted NFT gains into US dollars. I'm serious. Like I just like end up buying more stuff, or I have a big bag of Ethereum and Bitcoin, obviously, but and I'm comfortable with those things going up and down. But like this one sale, I paid a quarter ETH and I'm taking out 9 ETH if I sell. I would convert this to cash just to have like a semblance of responsibility. But my fear is a couple of things. There's always the fear that you get a rare. And, someone in our Discord or someone that watches our content sold the top 3 rarity Doodle. Top 3, So, wow. That's like $500,000 at the peak, right? So that's a tough one. So that's always there, but you can't, I never get rares, so you can't even bank on it that much. And plus, I think that they're saying that the reveal for this is in 30 days, which is the most outrageous thing I think that I've ever heard. I don't know. Yeah. I don't understand what that means at all.
It took them 7.5 years to even get to here. So maybe it's not that. No, that's a long. This is such a unique, kind of one of a kind, right? We've never seen, we keep saying this every week. We never saw Nazuki. This really is pretty unique. I think the 30 days, they have have earned that.
Yeah.
Right. If there's ever a project that wanted 30 days reveal, even more than Azuki, I think, like, we really want to see what these look like. Like, even looking at this is a great, right, post image, or whatever you want to call it, placeholder image, right? It's just like, I think so you could also play with that. If you wanted to hold out, like, obviously it could dip, or like pre-reveal. I always sell pre-reveal. I think it's just a mentality. I don't think people realize that post-reveal dump is not because, obviously, I think most people realize this. It's not because people don't like them. It's that it's literally like the expected value. The expected value, right? There's a couple mints that are priced in. So if you have a 0.5, say it's a 0.5 floor pre-reveal, obviously that's a 0.4 project with a couple 5 ETHs. So you're not doing anything irrational by keeping it. It's just like, what's your risk tolerance? Mine is none. And so I take the 0.5, and then I try to, frankly, I try to snipe with some of the tools right around reveal if I can, or I buy back in later. But yeah, this is, I mean, to me, I don't know what it is. I just view these. Yeah, I would, you know what I would do? I'd sell it at 9.1, take 2 ETH, put that into the bank account, and then buy some slim hoods as a hedge, 4 or 5 slim hoods, and the rest I would be buying the next ridiculous thing. I'd be buying 20, pathetic pandas or whatever, and trying to flip those.
So the way I'm thinking about it is, if I had sold my mutant ape pretty much at any time, I would have probably been pretty upset about it, right? Because mutant apes, I got mine for 2.825 in the Dutch auction. Everyone got their mutant apes between 3.5 and 2.5. They immediately ran up to 8, and then they went back down to just over 3, and they lived there for 2 months. And then they ran to 25. So if I had sold on that run up to 8, and then I didn't buy back in, I'd be pretty pissed because it ran to 25. And I feel like this is an animated avatar, which I feel like over time could become popular, like the thesis of animated avatars being like a big deal. And then this one would be like the blue chip of all blue chip, the original hyped up animated avatar. And I sell it right now for 9. Sure, 30 days goes by, the reveal happens. Is there a pump into the reveal? I don't know. It pulls back after the reveal. It's realistically less than what it's at now. Okay, cool. Am I buying back in there? I don't know if I trust myself to buy back in there at like 6 ETH or something, especially since I'm telling you I'm going to convert the money to cash. And then where is this a year from now when we're watching Doodles and World of Women run up to the mid-teens, like up to 20? Bored Ape Yacht Club is 80 ETH. Mutants went up to 25. All it takes is for the U.S. to print more money, for us to have a market bull run because of the war, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden NFTs are, and plus we haven't seen mass adoption. Nick posted the chart of the NFT market, and even though we're down right now, we're like 15x what we were at last July, and last July felt like it was pretty hot. Mm-hmm. And we're like at 15x that now. So maybe we cool off now, but what does another 15x look like? And this is like the exclusive project. Nobody has this. I can't believe I got on the whitelist for this. So these are the things that are going through my mind, with that.
Yeah, I think this is, I think with mutants, I would have sold at 3, I would have sold at 5, I would have sold it the whole way up. And you would have, so you and Nick and everybody that was, but with mutants, I think you had an understanding of the price discovery. I didn't factor in. I kept being like, the art, no one really cares about the art. And it was like, it doesn't matter. Even if you disagree, even if I'm right, it didn't matter. It was like, these are the people that couldn't buy into Bored Apes. And there's and there's so much demand for Bored Apes that residual demand was there. And of course, all the people that had Bored Apes had mutants, and they were like, a lot of them were not selling either. There was such a demand squeeze that you and Nick, had an eye on. I don't know that there's anything unknown here with Invisible Friends. Seems like it's more likely to be, I think everything is pretty much priced in, right? We've seen the art. It looks so great. It really does. They deserve a ton of credit.
Yeah, so it's a good one.
People in the chat have even said in response to they're pretty confident the 10,000, I don't know how many there are. They'll all look good, and they're probably right. And so it's basically, I think for someone like you, it probably makes sense to sit and hold it. You're right. The case that you make is good. You just never know. There's always these weird outliers like Roboto. I think we all think Roboto's is super cool art. They've made the right connections, and it never broke through. And so What is it about invisible? You knew, yeah, you knew something about mutant. I would put that in a different class, the mutants. This is kind of like you're just a believer in the project and you'd rather have it. For me, I feel like I can take that 9 ETH, or say it's 5 ETH after I take out my cut for my wife and my slim hoods. I feel like I can do more with that 5 ETH with something like a Huxley or whatever. So for me, even if you sell it at 18 ETH in a year, I'm pretty confident I can get there.
Yeah.
I can get there with my stupid flips. It's a lot of work, but so for me, that makes sense. I mean, if I'm splitting my time about 50-50 real law and this, for you, like that doesn't make sense. You don't want to be you and Nick, like you don't want to, it's not, you have real work to do. Like you'd rather just sit on this and do it. So I could definitely see it either way.
Yeah. So last thing I want to talk to you about is Smilesssvrs, because I know you've been accumulating this. So 0.95. Nobody wanted Smilesssvrs at the end of last year, and then everybody wanted it. It's like all of a sudden one day everyone was like, wait a minute, this one's really good. And I'm an idiot because I bought 4 and I only have 2 now, and I didn't sell them at the top. Needless to say, I actually sold a couple of them for a loss for quote unquote tax loss harvesting. So I learned a very valuable lesson last December, is that's the time to buy. It's not the time to sell good stuff. But I think everyone forgot about how good the art was on this. We saw an initial run up to 1 ETH at that time, or excuse me, right after the mint. And then it pulled back again as low as like 0.17, 0.18. So you could have just bought a ton of them at that number right in December, but everyone decided they wanted to buy a ton of them at 1 ETH. 0.18 was too low. 1 ETH was a better price for everybody else. And once it broke 1 ETH, we basically saw a meteoric rise to 2.5. So what is your strategy with this? You're accumulating it now. It feels to me like a Deadfellas-esque play at under 1 ETH.
Yeah.
I think it can go lower, but at the same time, I can go to sleep at night having a bag of these.
Yeah, I kind of screwed up Smilesssvrs along the way. I did well. It's exactly the same play for me as Betty and Deadfellas. I got a bunch at 0.25 at the beginning, and then I sold them into reveal. But and I think we both bought post reveal, which ended up being a mistake. But if we would have held them, right? So I had 3. I had 1 in each wallet. I wanted 1 in each wallet when they were like at point. They went down to like 0.3. I bought one off of Easy actually. 0.3. I'm like, I need 1 in each wallet. Just because they do airdrops. I'm like, Jonah's even said like we're going to reward our collectors. I'm like, I have 1 in each wallet. Yeah. I sold 1 at 1, 1 at 1.2, and 1 at 2.2. So I think I kind of caught the top. Then I have 0, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have any Smilesssvrs like this. If this goes to like, this is one of those. If this goes to 5, I'm gonna hate myself forever. Like I love Wahid. I love the project. Like why don't I own? So it dipped down. I got 1 at 1 point. I think I have like 6 now. They keep dropping, and I'm probably going to keep buying 1 at 1.8, 1 at 1.6, 1.4. I just got one yesterday at 1. I'm getting ones that I really like. To me, it's native Web3. Okay, it doesn't have the PFP thing. I know some people have an issue with that. It's native Web3. Wahid is just a star.
Yeah, he's a star.
They're
he's like
4 months
years
in.
old.
They're 4 months in. He's had partnerships with Adam Bomb Squad. They've had a bunch of good partnerships. He's the kind of person, like if Time Magazine walks in his door, he's going to be like, get out of here. Like Time Magazine, you're going to, no, really, like I'm bigger than in Web3. I know Time is like trying to get in.
He did CNBC though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was very early on, but I just mean like he can pick and choose his projects. He has such a great feel for Twitter. So genuine. I love the fact that he like talks about his religion. Like he's just such a genuine guy, great art, super positive. Like if you look back in a year, like who, of all these guys, Pablo, whoever, like, who would you say, like, who would you regret more not being like it's going to be so obvious in retrospect for me. Like he loves this space. He's still in, he comes on the show. I don't know if I see him in the audience, like every other day.
He listens. Yeah.
He lives
that's
here.
even better.
This is his thing. Like, it's not even like I'm into Web3 because I want to, it's like, this is where he grew up. It's like almost like growing up on TikTok. And like, to me, it's like, it's just an absolute kind of no-brainer as a long-term hold at 1. And, a lot of people are like, oh, Doodles or World of Women. It's like, yeah, great. If you have $30,000 to spend, like this is still in some world affordable. So to me, this is just like Betty. Like Betty is a mom. She was successful in Web 2 as an artist, is obsessed with Web 3. It's like the godmother, and is like a mom of 3. Like there's not going to be any scandal here. There's not like she's going to be here in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. and everything she does is gold, and everybody wants a piece of her. Same thing. It's like if like Netflix came to her, she might be like, kind of too normy. You know, she can actually turn that stuff down.
Yeah.
And so
well, they're making enough money with Dead Fellas.
They're making enough, but also she like is Web3. Like she is a true believer. Like she will do things that are just right for the space. And so that's what you're betting on. So I know you want to wrap. I mean, I think that's it. Other than, I mean, the one rule, and you know, we come to it all the time is,
go ahead. No, give me your one rule.
One rule is you have to have liquidity. You have to have a little liquidity.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's, you know, if you're 0.5, that's your whole bag, or 1. And like, you have to be able to jump, because there's going to be times, like I said, everybody FOMOs when they miss the loot, right? Where was I when Irene Dow happened, right? And I could have flipped. Or Skulls is a perfect example. Skulls dropped at 4 a.m. I was actually up. I've made more at 4 a.m. when I have to get up in the middle of the night to pee than I have in any other, in terms of like alpha, in terms of like the proportion, because no one's awake. And it's like, if someone drops something at 4 a.m,
it pays
you
to
beat
be
everybody.
Up at 4 a.m. Yeah,
and so Skulls dropped at that time. So if you were just there and like you just picked up 3 skulls, and flipped them from like 0.3 anytime to like 0.8, that's your whole week. If you make 1.5 ETH, that's $3,000. That's now the rest is like bank. But if you have to sell, like say, and I've had to do this, if you're scrambling to sell, like, oh shoot, I got to let me dunk a couple Huxleys real quick. Like 20 minutes can change an entire week.
Goodness.
And so you have to have a little bit, because I've been there where I scramble, I sell something, and it's too late. Like sometimes it's even like literally somebody I have just bought, you just stumble onto Dead Fellas, and sometimes people just list like 0.5 under the floor. They just want to,
because they need to get rid of it.
Right. So they're probably, you know, either they need the money or they're dumping something else. And like the floor is like 2.6, and someone randomly is selling or maybe it's a fat finger either. You don't want to take advantage of fat fingers, but if you don't have the money, 10 minutes can change an entire week.
Yeah, fat fingers get eaten by bots. I don't think I've ever had a chance to buy a fat finger, because anytime somebody does a true fat finger, it just gets bought.
A real. Right.
I think that people just trade the absolute shit out of the NFT market, and someone will dump a Dead Fella for 0.4 under the floor because they know it's going to sell literally within minutes. Think about that. Like you can just list that, and the ETH is in your wallet ready to spend like 6 minutes later, because they're like, I'm going to make way more off this other play. Like people trade the shit out of these markets. Real quick before we wrap. So
and it doesn't even have to be those skulls though. It can literally be, you know, this project Indifferent Ducks is one I actually had on my radar, and it went from like 5,000 to like people in our Discord started freaking out. It was like a 0.02 mint. You buy 10 of those if you're ready and you're liquid. You buy 10 or 20, and they went to like 0.12 in like an hour. And those, you know, you really have to be ready to jump on those when they're available. Sorry, go ahead. You can have the last word.
No, it's all good. I actually just want to keep the conversation going for a little while longer, because I remember this project. So basically, this project comes out March 4th. I haven't been talking about it that much because I don't want to blow it up too much, because I'm really personally interested in it. But for the sake of giving the audience some value, hopefully it's value. So I think that this one's going to be really good. However, these market conditions are gnarly. So I'm on the whitelist for this. I believe that we're going to get 2 mints. So obviously, no question, I'm going to go ahead and mint those and hold them. I would like to accumulate a big bag. I want to pull a Josh Brabowski from our show and buy, like he bought a bunch of World of Women at 0.1 ETH. I want to do that. And I had the opportunity to do that with Smilesssvrs. When Smilesssvrs had a multiple day whitelist mint, people were just selling them for 0.14, 0.15. It was the week of NFT NYC. I think people maybe didn't bring their hardware wallets, or people, you know, weren't ready to buy. That whole week, I could have been buying Smiles. Literally could have bought a bajillion of them at 0.15. I feel like the same thing is going to happen with this, because this one doesn't have nearly the same amount of hype as Invisible Friends or as Star Catchers, both of which got crazy hype. I'm probably hyping it up right now, so I'm doing myself a disservice. But do you feel like it's too risky to buy something between 0.1 and 0.2 that's new right now? I feel like this one's going to be good. I've talked to the artist. I like the rest of the team, but I don't know. Do you know anything about this one? What are your thoughts of like accumulating right now?
What is this project? I don't even know.
This is Loser Club.
Oh, Loser Club. So I like the art. You know, this is like immediately the meme. You know, I like the name. You know, I'm a little bit. You know, we're tired of seeing degen. You know, a lot of people have tried this normal people. I know the ugly people's coming. I
Yeah.
think that's, but Loser Club, kind of hits the right vibe. I'm getting good, good vibes off of that. Obviously, I'd want to see like the web page. I value a lot the copy. Like when I see, the first thing I see is,
Okay.
this is the copy of like, whether it's the web
The
page or even
website.
the blurb for the thing. If it says, this is, we're dedicated. This is a former Marvel artist, and this is, this is a metaverse kind of play, and we're into, this is pick the best of your 10,000. This is a 10, and, minted on the as ERC 721 tokens. I'm like, goodbye. Like this doesn't look. Whereas if I see something like Covens, if I see something like where there's like real narrative there, I'm like, oh, okay. Like they really like. I sometimes I place as much value on the copy as the what's it called? The preview pictures. I think I mentioned earlier the one that was pumping cyber frogs. The fact that they kind of like did like a wink wink roadmaps, all they do is create expectations. We want you to be there. I'm like, okay, kind of obvious, but like it's not just no roadmap. They were like, we're specifically not doing a roadmap because we don't want you to be on that ride. And I was kind of like, ooh, they hooked me there a little bit. I know at least you are thinking as a team about, how to present yourself. So yeah, I like definitely 0.1 to 0.12 is still with for me. And I know it's, it's like, what level of privilege are we talking about here?
Yeah.
If you have a bag of like 0.5, you're going to have to be very careful. If your bag is like 1.5 ETH and you have a project like this, which is between 0.1 or 0.2 and you're a believer, I mean, I don't have a problem getting 4, 5, 6 of these. Like I said,
I'm
to
thinking
me, this
about
is
getting like 15.
yeah, or 15, even same thing. Like worst case, what? You sell them at like 0.1, like 0.09, like you sell them and you
Yeah,
cut
like
your
how
bag a
bad?
little bit. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I would, I think you're, saying the same thing. I put up howlers, these might be, we might not even have the choice by the time it comes around. This might be a gas
0.2.
war, yeah, or like a whitelist thing. But yeah,
Well,
I think that's the right range. I'd be much more concerned about doing like if I don't know the project, even if it's a good project, like what's it, Clementine's Nightmare, I don't know anything about. So for me, I know people are big into it, but for me, like 0.7 in this market, 0.8,
it's a lot, man. Yeah, it's a
it's
lot.
like, I'm a little scared. I like to have 10.08s, and then I can manage what's going on with that. So that's, yeah, I much more prefer that.
It looks like there's going to be the pre-sale and public sale, which is a great opportunity. You basically just have to be the first person buying the people who mint on the whitelist, because everyone that's early on the whitelist, they go to flip for a 2x immediately. And they're like, cool, I got my 2x. That can be like the time that I basically feast, and getting them pre-reveal. If you get a bag of 15 of these pre-reveal, there's a really good shot that you get a rare one. And then if you have high conviction in the project, like for this one, the artist Jay Vaughn, he's like an artist. He's a musician too. He's doing these live stream drawing sessions that I really like. The idea of that. He's cranking out the art for this promotional material. He's been done with the art for the project, just knocking down the art for the promotional materials. And then I heard him doing a Twitter space last night where he's playing beats on his side for the Twitter space, and it's an open mic for people to rap, and he was like really engaged with it and stuff too. So I was like, all right, like I feel like this is gonna probably work. I feel like maybe it'll be under the radar if Russia's like bombing the shit out of Ukraine and we're all concerned with that, and it might be a good time to accumulate it. It's just such a weird time right now. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm doing nothing right now. I'm trading as though I'm assuming we're in a mini bear. If everything goes to 10%, like if there's a 90% dip, like, there's not really many,
There's not wins.
There's not many big brain, 200, 300 IQ plays, as the kids say, these, when everything's going down 90%. But I think that's the range you're going to want to be looking at. Yeah, those under the radar projects. If you think, especially in a week or two, I have, I think like I said, I mentioned Wolfers. I like the Possessed. I think they have a whitelist through Nifty Alpha Discord. Sensei Galverse is one that I'm looking at as
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I think probably from me, I think on the show. But it's some people from Friends with Benefits are behind it, and it's an anime play, and it's definitely going to be one of those same things. Slow build, long thought out. Like, if this war thing settles down and ends up being, one of these, macro presidential ego plays and things settle down in a couple of weeks, then yeah, that one, I would really like that 0.1 to 0.2 range.
For sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow Jesse on Twitter. Is it Jesse Halfin on Twitter or just Halfin?
Jesse S. Halfon, but I don't care if you follow me or don't. So if you miss it, don't worry about it.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Jesse, of course, thanks for coming on, amigo. And we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much.